Click. Oh, brother, that's how I'm starting.
Oh, jeez.
Hello, everybody.
We go.
Welcome to Monday Night Therapy. I don't have a guest except Minnie tonight because I just, I asked Connor to join us, but he was unavailable.
He did a show just an hour before. That's probably
Yeah,
why.
yeah. See, these guys are they're pumping out videos left and right now because they know they have limited time. We have limited time before the end of the season. And nobody but us is going to cover men's basketball. I wanted to start this by asking a really hard question.
What?
If you had your choice, which would you be, Pinky or the Brain?
Pinky or the Brain?
Just think about it. Think about it. You don't answer right now. Just if you had your choice, which one would you be, Pinky or the Brain?
Well, when you say Pinky, you have to be specific. You mean this Pinky, or do you mean like Pinky from Happy Days?
You don't know who
Pinky
Pinky and the
Mascara.
Brain is, do you?
No.
Oh God. Okay.
I guess I missed that one.
Well, it's okay. But I'm guessing if I mentioned the name like Rick Mayall, you wouldn't know who that is either.
Mm-mm.
The young ones.
The young ones?
Okay, let's move on.
The young guns. The young guns?
The young ones. It was a British television. Linda Wilkins says, John, you are old. Yeah, right. All right. Before we get into this, I'll tell you about, I want to tell you about how Nebraska fans are different than every other fan base ever, anywhere else. Okay. I got Nate McHugh gave me 3 tickets for my son, I guess what do I call her now?
Your future daughter-in-law.
Yes, my future daughter-in-law, and the young woman the 13-year-old girl I already called my granddaughter, Ava, is a very sweet young lady. They sat in North Stadium. I sat in South Stadium with my sister, Julie, who lives in Texas, and my grandnephew. I don't like calling him grandnephew, but he's my grandnephew, the son of my nephew, Landon, who is actually a student at Texas Tech. At one point, I think he was the MVP of the year in Texas soccer, which actually he was a goalkeeper. And he played 1 year college soccer. And there you go. Where was I going with this? Anyway, that's where we sat. And I was sitting up in, South Stadium. I purposely chose tickets next to the student section because I wanted to see how the student section reacted. And I wanted to see what I wanted to see how the student section, I wanted to see what South Stadium was like. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the comments. And I need to look at the comments. Well, here's the thing. I'm sitting next to this. I thought it was a good time. Everybody stood. I think in the fourth quarter, was it, when Wisconsin was going for a first down on a fourth, they were trying to convert a fourth. It got really loud. And the thing about it, it was that loud during the entire Colorado game. But people did stand for the entire game, at least in our section. I was sitting next to this woman. This guy in front of me turned around and said, "Hey, I watch your stuff all the time." And I thanked him. And, and then sitting next to this woman. And at one point later in the game, she's complaining that, they're not running the clock down. And I said, "What?" And she goes, "They keep snapping the clock at 20 seconds when we want to run the game out." And I turned and I looked at her and I said, "You know this game pretty well." And she kind of muttered at me, "It's not like I haven't been watching it my whole life." And it was at that point I realized, if you're around the Nebraska fan base and it's the only one you're around, you have no idea about this. But when you go to Nebraska games, what you don't see a lot of is drunk people. And when I'm talking about drunk people, I mean like sloshing, staggering, "I'll kick your ass," those kind of drunk people. People have certainly been drinking at the tailgates, but they do not come into the games drunk as shit and looking to cause problems. If you go to NFL games, those people are all over the place, and you really just need to avoid them and don't, because they're dumb. They're just stupid people. But this woman said this, and the other thing I just want to say about Nebraska fans is, my God, everybody in that stadium is so freaking focused on football.
They
when
are.
you found other fan bases, so many of them go to games because it's a social event. You know what I mean? They're there to drink. They're there to have fun. They're there. They kind of, the football just happens to be going on the field. Nebraska fans, they're like, don't fucking talk to me. Don't bug me. I'm watching the game. You know what I mean? And it just,
I do know
one thing about Nebraska fans that's unique to them. And if you want to find out, what I'm talking about, go to other games where Nebraska isn't involved. Where Nebraska, there's not, go to like an NFL game, go to a NHL game, or don't go to the NBA. I think that sucks.
People, don't you think that at those games, people casually watch? It's more of a, let's go and get loaded and have a social outing.
I think a lot of them. I mean, when you go to a Wisconsin game, for example, most of those people are there for the social event. It's not like they don't want Washington or Wisconsin to win. It's just they're not like, I mean, when people start yelling, stop calling screens, and they call every penalty out on the field, and they're pointing up at the board. There's some guy behind it is yelling out play calls of, with exactly what is going on the field. And, and I'm
That's
like,
insane.
I miss this. I will say this. I'm thankful to Andy Ketterson on our staff. He has his show tomorrow night. He has taken over the press box. He's in the press box this season. He's taken over the pre-games, the game halftime recaps, and the game recaps. And he started to take over Twitter. And really what it's done is it's freed me up to actually go do things that I haven't done in many years, which is like go to games or like do stuff with my family where my son proposes after the game. I didn't know he was going to do that.
That is so special. I can't believe that. Was he going to do it win or lose?
Well, I don't know. He had asked me, will they put it up on the board? And so I contacted the athletic department and they said, no, we don't allow that. And I imagine they don't allow it because they get like 150 requests a game for it. But after that, we didn't talk about it. And then when Landon walked up behind me when I was doing my video, I was very surprised. I was like, what the hell? Because there's chaos going on around us. You can hear all the people screaming and yelling in the background, and how much fun it was.
Now this is the rotten son we're talking about, right?
No, this is the oldest son. He went to Nebraska for a semester, and then they had budget cuts, and they literally cut the major he was in, and he said, "The hell with it," and left. And he's still a Nebraska fan, so. God. Hold on a second. We need to go through some of these. Dustin Rogge says, I hear you can get into the game Friday for free if you bring a feed bag to donate to the Iowa cheerleaders. Boom, 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 boom. That's the kind of spirit we need. Fuck Iowa. I'm 9 minutes into this before I say this. Tiger Shark Diver says it's a good week to be a Husker. You know what it was? It was... the women lost to Creighton. That was unfortunate. It was a pretty good game. I just watched the stats on that. Friday night, we're driving to Lincoln. We stopped at Nate's house to pick up the tickets, and we watched the second half of the Creighton game on his TV, and in Murdoch, Nebraska. And it was holding Ryan Kalkbrenner to four. By the way, we're going to cover men's basketball. We're going to cover as many sports as we can, not just football.
Okay.
At least I am. Whatever you guys want to do on Thursday is up to you. But holding Ryan Kalkbrenner to 4 points all from the free throw line, I don't think you can. That's amazing. That's just it. Put it this way, in volleyball terms, and it was nice to see us sweep Wisconsin again, and how kind of crusty and pissed off Kelly Sheffield. It's his face all the time, isn't it? But, holding Kalkbrenner to that few points, forcing Creighton to take so many threes, the most of them, which was terrible clanking going on, that bodes well for Big Ten conference play. If we can get like Braxton Mia, and Connor Segan, those guys, what I like about our basketball team, Minnie?
What do you like?
I like the fact that like 2 or 3, it's usually been that our basketball team has like one guy that looks like a serial killer. This year, there's at least 2 or 3 guys that look like murderers. And I like that about, the basketball players. Just like, you wouldn't want to meet that guy in a dark alley.
Yeah.
God,
I
God knows where your
think
intestines are going to end up.
I think that's kind of important to have on a team.
Yeah.
So I would agree with that.
But I think the men's basketball team, who knows? But it certainly was a great game. And, of course, fuck Creighton too. So that was fun.
Oh,
Nebraska Rascal says, John, it's always a fresh breath of air after having to listen to Greg all week. God, I agree. fuck that Greg guy too. Tiger Shark Diver says, John, you never went to the res. LOL. What does that mean?
I think they were talking about Texas. Weren't they?
Because to me, if you said never went to the res, that would be like an Indian reservation. Okay, we'll
yeah,
move
me
on.
too. Yeah, go listen to TSD.
Tiger Shark Diver again. My guy, you must be in love with this guy. You're taking all these comments. Huskers are on the rise. Dana Longfellow is a savior. I didn't rewatch the game. I didn't have time. We drove all the way back Sunday. I watched the NFL. I like football, but it seemed to me that in the Nebraska versus Wisconsin, you could see the offense gaining confidence as the game went on. And your guy.
Yes.
Yeah, look at that face. Look at that face. Good God. It's just disgusting.
What?
The cute face that you just did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I mentioned Dylan Raiola, you going to do it every time?
I think so.
You know what? He in the past few games, we've seen him where he just wouldn't make throws. He wouldn't throw the ball at all. He'd have guys open. He wouldn't throw the ball. Early in the Wisconsin game, I think you saw that again. Jalen Lloyd was open on a fly route, and our entire section screamed, throw the ball, and pretty much, and he didn't throw the ball. He took the under. And then later, as that game went on, he just started making the throws. And there was a couple of times where he threw the ball into really tight spaces, and he would not make those throws before. He just flat out wouldn't, and the offense would just fart itself. That's what it is. And I think, so many people focus on tactical stuff or strategic stuff or, schematic stuff. And I really think that this offense before Dana Holgorsen, I've said this before, this offense had a problem with confidence. And in this game, I think you really saw where the confidence was just building throughout the game. The guy that had turned around and said, hey, you're John from Coordination. I watch your stuff. He and I kind of went back and forth a little bit. And I said, in the second half, I kept asking, we've scored on every possession. And we did. Yeah. There was that big Wisconsin touchdown. Was it late third, 8 minutes left in the fourth? Was it? The bomb?
Oh, yes. Was that it? All I know is we were 7 for 7 in the red zone.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
pretty amazing. Yeah. That's a combination of two things. Wait a minute. We'll get back to that. Hold on to that thought. Okay. When that bomb hit from Wisconsin, you could see everybody in the stadium. I looked around. Everybody in the stadium had that look on their face like, oh, God, not this shit again. But Nebraska went out and the offense kept scoring. And that's what we need. That's what we need. Listen, I've seen so many people bag on the defense, and the defense they're not been fine, but they've been doing pretty much their job. They've been holding teams to a minimum of points, and they gave up 25 to Wisconsin. And it's easier to score these days because of all the rules changes and the way that the game favors the offense. But what we saw in the Wisconsin game is what we need to see like most of the time as a team scoring. When Scott Frost came, I said, the guy's offense needs to score 40 points a game. That's what we need to see. We need to see an offense that goes down the field, goes down the field, and then they get into the red zone, and they know how to score because the guy that's running the fucking show knows what he's doing.
Well, I said that we need to score at least 30 points per game, and somebody called me crazy. I mean, in order to be good, you have to score at least 30 points a game.
Yeah.
But Dana Holgorsen, his resume, what he's done at his peak, like offensive yards and points, is pretty close to what we're getting. 473 yards of offense. He typically does in the 500s. Did you hear me?
I'm sorry.
We can look forward to that. Right. 500 yards of offense. Can you imagine?
That's where you want to be.
That's where we need to be.
Yeah.
And in the 40s. Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
We'll go back to earlier comments. Robert Frere says, I'll be better after Michael Terry commits. What will he be better than?
He'll be better. He'll feel better. He doesn't feel quite like he's drinking enough Kool-Aid yet. He needs that to tip him over the edge.
If you want to feel better, it's how we're going to perform against Iowa. Because I know everybody's excited about we're going to go to a bowl game, but it's beat Iowa week. It's fuck Iowa week. We still have one more game in the regular season. And if you want to feel good about what happened this last weekend, then there needs to be, I don't want to, you know what? Fuck it. They need to win against Iowa. For everybody to feel good about going into the offseason. I realize everybody.
It would make the biggest. I mean, we already feel great as a fan base. I mean, even though there's some naysayers still, the people like it was just one game. I think it would solidify going into next year, and it would also help with NIL money.
Yeah, probably would. Yes. If more people would feel faith about where we're going and what we're doing. Mm-hmm. The other thing about the red zone.
Yes.
Heinrich Harburg scored a touchdown.
I know.
Right?
I know.
And I think the thing is this. In the first week against USC, you saw a little bit of tempo changes. You saw a little bit of improvement in the offense. This week, they made a massive leap. I think what you're also maybe going forward against Iowa is you had a few plays for Heinrich Harburg. And what I've said about Harburg since the beginning, I think, was put a package together available for him so that he can come into the game and he can run 3 or 4 plays, and that's the guy you use to change things up. And I'm going to predict that that's what we're going to see against Iowa, because we're going to see, Heinrich Harburg come in and maybe not run a series, but run 4 or 5 plays, 3 or 4 plays in succession, where we can see what his skill set is. You keep looking off into these comments and you keep getting this look on your face. So I feel like I'm keeping missing things.
You have FOMO. You'll get to them, I promise.
Robert Frere again says first Xavier Betts, now Malachi Coleman. Yeah, Malachi Coleman announced that he's going in the transfer portal. He didn't play this year. Some people said he was hurt. I'm not really that concerned about it. I don't have the list of receiver commits that we have coming in, but when you look at the players that are coming in, I think that we shouldn't be that worried about Malachi going somewhere else. And, he should always do what's in his best interest. So we all know this. Everybody who follows Nebraska football should know this, that we have a 150-man roster and it's going to get cut to 105. So we're going to lose shitloads of players. I think I'll do a single video about this, warning about it, because I don't know if because here's what's going to happen. We're going to lose a shitload of players. There's going to be a lot of people accusing each other of tampering. You know that right now, Dylan Raiola and his family are getting offers from other schools. They are. Okay.
Oh, sure.
You know that our defensive players are getting offers from other schools. Come here, do this. We'll give you this. That shit's going on everywhere. And we're going to lose some people that we really don't want to lose and players we like. Malachi Coleman's just the first. So prepare yourself for the screeching, especially after the Iowa game. And, coming up on December 9th, when the portal opens, there's going to be a lot of there's going to be shit tons of rumors. And I'm guessing people that just go ahead and spew out rumors and stuff like that are going to take full advantage of that, because there's a political hysteria industrial complex that's been built, and it's huge. And a lot of that stuff is trickled over into other things where we realize that we can use hysteria, that kind of hysteria to drive hits. We know this. Everybody knows this. I should take more advantage of that.
What are you going to do, John?
I don't know. Be hysterical. People were wanting. People I was walking back
on that.
I was walking back we were walking back, all of us, to Landon's pickup that he drove up from Texas. Is one of those big things that sits way up in the air. But people were running up to me and saying, "You're not in the bathroom." And I thought, what a hell of a thing to
be known for.
Yeah. Talk about, you never know where life is.
Sean, think of it like this.
Take you.
People use the bathroom daily. So maybe when they do, they think fondly of you.
Linda Wilkins says, but he was a 4-star in-state kid. Well, okay, he can go be a 4-star out-of-state kid somewhere else. I guess the thing is I'm not going to bring hands over it. I'm not going to get really upset about it. I think that what we've proven in the last 2 weeks is that if you have the right coaches in place, you're probably going to be fine. That whole Mike Jackson writes our report card every Sunday, and he brought up that whole line about it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes. That's bullshit. All right. When you get up here into the top 5 in the nation, then that starts getting important. But when you're down here and you're scrubbing around like we are, just looking for wins, that whole line about it, Jimmys and Joes, you have to have good players, but no, certainly good players, good quarterbacks have made Lincoln Riley's career, but it's still, you got to have guys that know what they're doing with the offense and on the defense and stuff like that to coach these people.
That's twice I agree with you tonight.
Orson Adolph says, "Hi, Granddaddy John." Why did you select that one?
Well, because I like Orson.
Okay.
He makes me laugh.
Dana has to stay. Somebody asked me about this, and here's what I'll say about Dana Holgorsen.
Yes, I'm curious.
Because I'm an older guy than almost all the other people that are on YouTube or Twitter or all that shit doing Nebraska stuff or any other sports stuff. And I can give you this perspective. When you get older, there's a lot of people that are still all about money. Okay. They'll always be there. I don't know if it's insecurity or they're just they're running from something that happened in their path, but there are always people that are always about money. But not everybody is. And especially when you get older, you get to a point where you're like, I have enough money. I don't want to be bored. And, when Dana Holgorsen first started, he said, "Why did you take the job?" "Because I was bored." That's a big, huge issue. Younger people will look at that and go, "That's really stupid." Older people look at that and they go, "Yeah, because, retirement, there's people, all around me talking about, what are you going to do when you retire?" I don't know, something else, YouTube. Because I don't want to be bored. And that's the thing with Dana Holgorsen. I see people paying whatever he wants. It won't matter what you can throw money at him. That's probably not going to be the thing for him. I'll tell you what would keep Dana Holgorsen. Do you want to know, Minnie?
I think I know, but go ahead.
If I was Dana Holgorsen, I would go to Matt Rule and I'll say, I'll stay next season if I get complete control over the offense. And that includes all the coaches. I get to hire who I want and I get to fire who I want. And if you can't do that, well, I'm going to go fucking drink margaritas and, you know what? Probably be an offensive coordinator for somebody else. Maybe one of your competitors.
Or a head coach.
Your ass
but he doesn't really seem like he wants that head coaching gig again. I mean, that's Head coaches
a
do
lot of
not
shit.
have.
Yeah.
It is. He likes to coach football. And being a head coach, you have very little time to actually coach football.
I mean, you got to deal with all this nil stuff. You got to deal with the portal. You got to deal with, you know, players, these kids these days. I really want to make a video about that too. Damn kids these days. Okay. Joel says, what did Fickle say to Donovan Raiola after the game, and how lucky was that cop? I don't know if any of you have seen this video, but apparently Donovan Raiola says something to Luke Fickle as they're moving off the field. And a Wisconsin cop runs after Donovan Raiola and kind of yanks his arm, and people are like, that's assault, whatever. Assault, come on. Assault's when you get punched in the face. You candy ass puss boys. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know if anybody's figured out what happened there, but it was certainly kind of weird.
It was very weird. Luke Fickle does not seem to temper his emotions very well. I think that's pretty evident in the fact that he fired his offensive coordinator and said it's the best thing for the team, but would not list the reason why. And continue to get upset continue to get upset as the, press started asking questions. He totally flubbed that interview. He said, well, what does it matter who calls the plays?
Yeah, I saw that.
I called the plays in 5th grade and 7th grade. So he just kind of has like a, gets from 0 to 60 pretty quickly. And I feel like that's kind of what happened there. I don't know.
I had a Penn State cop get after me once at a Minnesota game. Years ago, I went and I shot for our Minnesota site the last time Penn State played against Minnesota at Minnesota, and Minnesota upset them, and they almost upset them this past weekend. But I was standing behind the Penn State bench, and I was trying to get photos of assistant coaches, and a Penn State trooper, I think it was, came up to me and said, "No standing behind the bench," and he was kind of he was a fucking big guy. And I'm like, what? And because I was like, what? Nobody's ever said this to me before. And he got more and more aggressive. And I'm like, I'm trying to get photos of the assistant coaches, and I do have a credential. And he goes, "There's no standing behind the bench." And I said, why? What is the problem? And he goes, "'Cause that's the rules." And he basically said, move along or you're going to be arrested. And I'm like, what the fuck is this Penn State trooper going to do? Arresting me? Can he do that? I didn't want to mess with him. He was huge. Anyway, the point is,
back in the day,
cops on the field take things very serious. Yeah,
and they could get away with a lot more back in those days.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yes.
Because Linda Wilkins says laying your hands on someone is considered an assault.
Well, yeah, by fucking candy ass people. I suppose it is because we have so many lawyers in this country that everybody wants to be a victim. What did David I clicked this thing off. What did David Mandy say? Yeah, well, we're moving on. I'll take another one of his. He says a win against Iowa would be huge. It would. It'd put us at 7-5. And Charles Hullett has this thing down here where he says, I'm still of the opinion that we beat a 5-5 team, now a 5-6 team. So I'm tempering my enthusiasm for Friday. That's probably pretty good advice. Corey says, and I'm assuming this is about Malachi Coleman. I know you guys know more about it than I do, but if they wanted him, they probably they would have kept him.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that. And then Corey also says, can Nebraska just develop one cycle of players for true juniors and seniors playing? That's a good question. I do think, Bryce Benhart has stuck around for God knows how many years. We barely hear his name anymore, which means nobody's complaining about him. So can develop just one cycle. I think, well, juniors and see what James Williams isn't a senior or junior, is he?
Who?
James Williams, on defense, the guy.
James Williams is not. No.
Right.
He just transferred from JUCO last year. So he would be a sophomore, I guess.
With all the movement right now, we're in kind of the Wild West where there's this NIL and there's the portal, but there's not any laws been passed. And then next year, we're going to come in with the house settlement where their schools are going to directly be paying players. So right now it is really the Wild West. There's no rules against tampering. There's no contracts so it's pretty insane. I don't think that's not unique to Nebraska. That's a problem everywhere. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. I think the key is that Matt Rule wants to be a development guy, because that's pretty much what you're going to have to do to keep your lines, I think, offensive line particularly intact and being stronger as time goes on, is just to develop the depth and the amount of players that want to be with you that are going to
develop.
Jay's Boardman, a cop grabbed Donnie Raiola in the Big Ten, still didn't call holding. Very good one. Fred Sacco says, I don't trust John's serial killer radar. He says I look like one. Well, you do, Fred. This is about percentages. This is about percentages. He kind of does. He has that look sometimes. I mean, if he probably, he's probably John, of the age that he would have already started the serial killing. It was probably a higher percentage of possible probability when he was younger. Now it's drifting down because, I mean, that's a lot of work to do. Okay. What else do I have? We're at 32 minutes.
There's a ton of comments, and I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it. I'm just going to mention it about Thomas Fidone's grandmother.
Yeah.
You want to mention that?
Well, do you know what happened? Does everybody know what happened?
I feel like everybody knows.
Well, Thomas Fidone committed a false start during the game. He came out of the game. He didn't come back in. I didn't see him again anyway. And then apparently Thomas Fidone's grandmother left a post on social media complaining about the treatment of him. And, I think the thing is there's a few things about this. Number one, I think it was pretty clear that if you just listen, false starts are because of two problems: communications and focus. All right. Normally, if they're a communication issue, it's a communication issue with the center and the quarterback, and everybody doesn't know what's going on properly. The other problem is focus. And if you have lack of focus, I think we just saw is Dana Holgorsen is like, you're not fucking doing that on my team. You can go sit over there and the other guys can play because we have more tight ends than you. I don't think we should.
Yeah.
What?
That's how it should be. That's how it should be. And that's what Coach Rule said today.
Is it?
In his press conference. Yep. He said those exact words.
What else was I? Thomas Fidone. I mean, this is a guy who's, first of all, when I was 18 years old, there's no way in hell that I would have had ever the discipline or the regimen to be a college let's just say I was athletic, because I'm certainly not athletic, but let's just say I had the skill physically to be a Division I player. I would have never had the discipline that it takes to go lift weights, to show up at 6 a.m. every freaking morning or something, go to meetings on time.
Yeah.
It's just not in me. And this was a guy who tore his ACL 2 years in a row and still had the tenacity to go through all the recovery of that and the discipline and the will to, he could have done what I would have done. And that was drink beer and find women.
Did you see that Bly Hill was back though? Speaking of tearing your ACL, he played this last game. Yeah.
I was thinking Tommy Hill. Oh my God, what's wrong with this person? Child in the 1970s says Nebraska and Iowa are my co-favorite teams. Weird, huh? Yes. but I like them both before Nebraska joined the Big Ten. You know, I will put you on my prayer list, child of the 70s, because that's just not right.
Well, he's here. Let's enjoy him.
Linda Wilkins says we scored on 5 consecutive drives. Yeah, they just, part of that could have been Wisconsin defense that really wasn't interested in playing. But, you know what? We did that again. We played against crappier teams early in the season. We certainly didn't accomplish any of these things. So,
they were the third best defense we went against this year, and really? we marched all over them. Yeah,
we did.
Indiana, Ohio State, and them.
Fred Zacco says, I went on an Iowa show and asked how they were with double entendres, and they said, wow, is that a new meal at Denny's? Fred. Nebraska Rascal says Dowdell now has 11 rushing TDs for the season. And you know what? The other thing happened was they opened holes. They opened a few holes that were the size of like trucks.
Can you?
And then the running backs ran through those holes.
Can you talk about Emmett Johnson, please?
He's a running back.
And
well, I think John? For everybody that was freaking out, what?
Why does he look so different?
You talk about him. No, you talk about it. You
riddle me this. Riddle me this. Why does Emmett Johnson look like a different running back now?
Confidence.
No. Everybody's doing their job.
Was that it?
Yes. And there were plays that we had 2 running backs on the field.
Yeah.
It's amazing what can happen in just that short of time when everybody is told to do their jobs. People
I think
catch the ball, people block, all kinds of things happen.
I think that he added motion and he was adding, misdirection and types of stuff in there that I like, and that helped out the offensive line.
It was so beautiful, wasn't it?
It was nice looking. Gargamel 91 says 3 minutes left in the third on the Wisconsin bomb. So there was plenty of time for them to come back if we'd have suddenly shit ourselves. I'm going over in the comment. 2-0 says, do your job or lose your spot. And he actually means it. Well, yeah, that's good. By the way, you know what I did? I put my books up on our store at Cobby Corn, so you can buy my Been Dead, Never Been to Europe. Actually buy an autographed copy from me. And I know this one isn't for most of you, Manage Your Damage, Heart Attack Survivor, but it is about overcoming anger, anxiety, and depression to get your life back after trauma. And I imagine people go through trauma that isn't heart attacks. So, might fit. I'll autograph that one too. I was thinking that we would come up with one more design. We have a 15% off code that you can see on the banner below. That will be around until December 10th, which there's a cutoff date in there where we can still deliver product. By the way, whenever I wear this hoodie around Nebraska, people are always walking up and ask me where they can get one. So you can go to cobbycorn.com. And it's not for everybody, but I look good in
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, do you mind if I address this guy here?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Tim's Golf 1 Sheridan. Love John, but Minnie? Cute, yes. But why on a football podcast? Ridiculous. Tim, I love football. I'm a Husker fan, and I do nothing but study Husker football. So John is nice enough to let me on this show, and I enjoy every minute of it. So I hope that you look at it differently, because may not be a dude, but I'm here to hopefully contribute a little bit.
Yeah. Football players have mothers, for God's sakes. If you don't think they lived through this stuff. I always think these comments are weird.
They are. But, I'm glad that you let me address that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. By the way, my sister Julie, you mentioned earlier you have brothers.
Oh, yeah.
I have 4 sisters. And I don't want to say they're just flat out mean as hell, but they're tough as hell. And, with all these people that all my life, I've been around guys that are like, or these comments that, well, they don't want a woman to be in charge, or they don't, this woman can't do this job, or this woman can't do this thing. My sister Julie was raising 2 kids when she went to the University of Nebraska. She graduated in 3.5 years. She was the first female mechanical engineer graduate at the University of Nebraska. She was Tau Beta Pi voted the best engineer in her class. So this whole concept that women can't do things, I would like to introduce them to my sister Julie, who would just reach into their beating chest and rip their beating heart out and show them to them right before they collapse. Those are the kind of women I grew up around. What?
She sounds a lot like you, John.
Yeah, well, she was a pain in the ass to follow. You know what I mean? Because you just can't follow that shit. I'm not going to perform that well. I just think I'll go be a criminal. By the way, I spent, my son and, my future daughter-in-law and my granddaughter spent a lot of time at the Curtis tailgate from my hometown. So they got to meet guys that I grew up with. And those guys proceeded to tell them many of the crimes we all committed together and the stupid things I did. So they got to hear that. And that was interesting for them. Okay, Iowa. Let's see. Volleyball beat the shit out of Wisconsin, swept them again. It was senior night. John Cook gave the Wisconsin seniors flowers, and then we beat the hell out of them.
I love that.
That was great. Let's see. Anything about the Wisconsin game? By the way, 2 of my work colleagues, one is a Penn State guy, and he's constantly whining about Penn State and we're going to lose. And then the other guy's a Wisconsin guy, and he was kind of a little, no, not quiet. I think he was more despondent than quiet. Because, this was the game was a mental health game. One of those teams is going to get bowl eligible. Both teams have second-year coaches. I think Luke Fickle is a good coach, but, you have to fit in a place and you have to get the right things going. You have to have the right coaches around you. I think I saw somewhere, put it this way, Fred Hoiberg, he's in his 6th or 7th year. God knows how long it's going to take for him to get a 500 record in Nebraska, because the first 4 or 5 of those years, he was terrible. I mean, they were just not good. And then he figured it out. He figured out what coaches he needed to bring and how he needed to play at Nebraska to be successful. And, who knows what we're going to do this year? Well, okay, 2 weeks ago, there were probably half of us wanted Matt Rule fired. He's never going to work out. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a used car salesman. I kind of feel that way at times too, but what did he do? He took the necessary steps to kind of figure it out and start making changes so that he can have success. So
isn't it nice that
a lot of change in 2 weeks.
It's nice that we don't get to make those decisions, quite honestly.
Well, that's true. We just get to complain about them. Okay. Michael Landauer says, John, I have a question. Which team do you love more, Colorado or Iowa? I love Colorado. I do.
Love more. Do you love them?
Well, why not? We beat them. We're not going to play them again. I am okay with Colorado. You know what? I do like that they lost.
I love that we dismantled them.
Yeah.
They were horrible. I never want to go back to Boulder after last year's game ever again. They're horrible fans.
I hate Iowa. I hate them. Okay? Listen, everybody hates Iowa. And there's a reason why they hate them. Let's back up. Let's just, in a hypothetical world, let's just say that we would have lost to Wisconsin. What we would be talking about tonight is probably be indulgent, bashed in with who is our next coach going to be. Well, I bet you make fun of Iowa, but I bet you wish you were them. Fuck no. I don't ever want to be Iowa. I don't ever want to be just settling for good enough. I bet you miss Bo Pelini. No, I don't. You should be hiring coaches that get you to championships. And if you're not going to do that, then just don't bother with it. Just get a coach that pay him $100,000 and be last. Because if you're not trying to be excellent in something, what's the fucking point of doing it at all? So that's why I hate Iowa. I hate them because you know what? We've had a bad stretch for a long time. And they've been able to lord over it. Let's see what's Iowa's won 8 of the last 9 matchups. Well, it's time for that shit to end. They're just good enough with it. It's fine. They're never going to win a championship. They're never even going to try to win a championship. I don't ever want to be that person. I don't ever want to be that program. And if my program ever turned into that, I'd burn all my shit. By the way, I told people I went to Nebraska last weekend for one of 2 reasons. And that was to be there at the game when we got bowl eligibility, or to start burning shit down. We'd have lost. That's right, you sons of bitches. Get your toilet seats and let's smash it.
Okay. John, I have a question for you.
What?
Okay. Based on that logic, you should hate Northwestern too. How do you feel about them?
They don't act like it. They don't they don't act like I've never had a Northwestern fan come up to me and go, we're better than you are. Never. I don't ever see do they exist even? Northwestern's a wholly different group of people, and mostly the Wisconsin, put it this way. Here's the other thing about Iowa fans, and I'm glad you asked that question. I don't get Wisconsin fans don't do that shit to me either. Do you know why that is?
Why?
Because Wisconsin fans aren't worried about us. They're worried about themselves. They're like, we want to be best. Hey, by the way, we beat you, but we need to get better. We need to do this. Iowa fans are over here just acknowledging the fact that they're never going to get better. They're just going to be above average and okay with it. But that's why they go walking around to other people going, oh, I guess we beat you last time. I guess we beat you. They never go, oh, boy, we beat you. And then, oh, I hope we get better, because they know it's futile.
Okay. Breathe.
Oh, my God. Now I'm hot. James Boardman says Northwestern fans are holograms. They're all making more money than the rest of us. That's what they're doing.
They sure do have a nice facility for being just hologram fans.
They put money into it.
They have.
Okay, so Nebraska, when we go into Iowa, we're going to play their 5th string quarterback.
Is it 5th or 3rd?
5th. It was he was in the Iowa notes for this week, for this game. Let's see. Jackson Stratton is listed as, at the beginning of the season, the 5th string quarterback. Last week, he went 10 of 14 for 76 yards against Maryland. And I think the key thing there is I don't think he threw an interception.
Okay. Wow. That is pretty impressive. How many throws did he have, though?
Well, 10 for 14 for 76.
Okay. I just wonder if we had to put in our 5th string quarterback, where would we be?
We'd be doing exactly what they're doing. We'd be running the ball a lot. We have it. Drake Wisfield, thank you for the $5 super chat. We could have more of those. Christmas is coming. Mama needs a new pair of shoes. Minnie needs something. Says that. Yeah. Now that is the John we know. Every once in a while, my wife and I talk about, maybe we should get rid of this house and we wouldn't have to do yard work anymore. And I always think there ain't nobody going to let us live in a freaking apartment where they got some guy screaming at football. When I moved into this house 30 years ago, at one point, it was coming up on football season. I made a point to tell my neighbors, I am not beating my wife.
Oh my gosh. Are you serious?
And they were
That's
like,
how much
what?
you yell?
Yes. Because at the old place that we were in, an apartment, we were over at a guy's house one night and we were drinking some beer and stuff. And he looks at me and he goes, do you beat your wife or what the fuck is going on over there? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I beat my wife? He goes, I hear screaming all the time. You're both screaming. I'm like, we're watching Nebraska football. So when we moved out and I moved into the house, I made the point to tell my next door neighbor, I don't beat my wife. Listen, you're going to hear a lot of screaming. It's fall. You people in Minnesota don't get this, but it's college football. Okay. And they're like, yeah, we don't get it. Why would you do that? I'm like, cut. Because you all get pissed off at the Vikings and, throw all your shit at, every time the Vikings lose some big game, you find all the dumpsters full of Viking gear. It's the same shit. It's just college for us. But I did. I made a point to, I am not beating my wife. And I'm not moving into an apartment or a condo unless they have like special like provisions for screaming.
Soundproof rooms.
I didn't have much of a voice after that game.
Yeah, that's awesome.
20 says McNamara was on concussion protocol and is now ready, is what he said. Who's he?
Huh. I'm guessing Ferenc. Did he say that today? Because I didn't listen to his press conference.
I don't mean to be, well, yes, I do. 3 years ago, Cade McNamara was, one of the top guys when he left Michigan. Everybody was like, oh my God, he went to Iowa. And that guy has not done well at Iowa. So if Cade McNamara wants to be the starting quarterback, I think I'm all for that. That's cool. Oh, wait a minute. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. Oh, hide. Okay. Let's see what else.
I just wanted to know why is your wife screaming? Also, is she a Husker fan?
She's a Nebraska fan. She doesn't
as big
anymore.
As you? Oh, she doesn't.
My oldest son will tell this. I heard him tell people this story when we were out and about this weekend. And he said years ago, when I was a little kid, I remember that my mom was crying when we lost Oklahoma. And I thought, what in the hell is wrong with these people? Why are they like this? And then he realized, that's why we're a Nebraska football team. I think it was in some championship game.
And they're done that.
Corey says, yes, and this 15 quarterback is going to hang at least 250 yards passing on us because our secondary is dazed and confused. If they're going to sell out the run and make the guy prove that he can throw the ball. And, they can hang 250 yards passing on us. Who fucking cares if they hang 250? It's about scoring. It's a matter of that they don't score, then who gives a shit? Now, having said that, in the last game against Maryland, their field goal kicker hit 5 field goals, and I think he set some kind of records. And they were of all varying lengths. The longest one was, I think, over 50. James Boardman comes in with an Iowa orgy is called a family reunion.
Well, that's only 15 points, just so you know.
Right.
I happen to think that we might just be looking at a shutout.
It's really hard to shut people out.
I know. I think our team is on fire. That's what I think.
The last 6 games between Iowa and Nebraska have been decided by 7 points or less.
Yeah, well, those days are over, John.
It's a 1-score game, Minnie. A 1-score game.
So are you saying we're going to be 7-0?
I don't know. I haven't really, I haven't thought about what's going to happen in this game other than we need to see more of what we saw against Wisconsin. And I do believe we're going to see that because I think it's a whole attitude change and then shift and confidence change. Here's another thing from Iowa. Top cornerback Jamari Harris has already opted out of the season to prepare for the NFL draft. He was listed as when they announced this, everybody said that was their best cornerback. Well, here's the thing.
Oh my gosh.
before the show tonight, I went around and I tried to look at all the 2025 NFL, people order guys and who's going to be drafted high. This guy wasn't listed on anybody's board. He wasn't listed in top cornerbacks of anything. I like to look at walterfootball.com, I think it is, and they usually list the top 20 prospects. Tommy Hill was listed. This guy wasn't listed. So, okay, you opted out of, I guess you need to prepare for the NFL draft. I don't get it.
That is weird. Maybe he knows that he's not on a winning team.
Well, you have to take that one.
What?
Why aren't there roaches in Nebraska? At least, you know what? I don't know, but I want to hear the answer. And I suppose it's something along the lines of, Dixon cider box or something. Okay. This is earlier. Fred Sacco says December 9th, the last of Deion's toes enter the portal and come out into the feedlot for Iowa cheerleaders. God. Oh my God. That's the thing about those is I always, you have time. If you make long comments like that, I think Fred knows this. You have time to read the first part before you read the whole thing. You're like, yeah, I'll go ahead and use that one.
Oh my gosh. Mitch B did answer your question.
What do you say? Roaches have too much self-respect, but boom, bada bing. That's very good. So, okay. Since we're at 57 minutes, what do we think is going to happen against Iowa? It's at Kinnick at night.
Somebody said, Husker Pop says that I was favored by 5.5, so Vegas doesn't think we hold them scoreless. Yes.
Right.
We'll see. So that we have that to work with.
They're favored by 5.5.
Mm-hmm. And you said there's always a 1-score game.
Yep.
And I say we're going to have a shutout. So what do you think, John?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that we have to, like I said earlier, we're going to have to sell out to stop the run, stop Caleb Johnson from gaining yardage. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have to make a Jackson Stratton or a Cade McNamara prove that they can beat you through the air. And I guess I'm not as worried about that as probably other people are with the whole secondary thing. I do think, what did we give up to Wisconsin? I
25. 44 to 25, wasn't it?
How many yards?
Oh, look it up, please.
I'm going to. I'm going to pull up the game book because we're moving to the relaxed part of the show.
You're going to find something, I'm sure, in these stats that it's going to be like, what? I forgot about that.
All right, there's the game book. No. What do we do?
Oh, geez. Look at this. I heard that the kickoff temp will be around 17 degrees with little to no wind. 17.
That's beautiful football weather. You know what's beautiful about that football weather?
What?
For the first time in the history of college football, people from the South are going to have to come to the North probably to play in playoff games. I think that's, I hope that it's like -40 when all them sons of bitches from wherever they are in the SEC try to go get games and they catch passes and their hands just fall right off.
We have, I go skiing a lot with my family, right? There's such a thing as insulated, like you can recharge your socks to keep them warm the whole time. And mittens. Do they have things like that for football players?
Well, you always have hand warmers and things like that. But you probably have to do something to keep yourself at a level.
You can't even keep your skin exposed that long at 17 degrees.
No,
Like
you're
a
right.
game's three
But I
and a half
mean,
hours. So
in
or 3
little
hours.
to no wind, though. I mean, little to no wind is a big key factor there.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when the wind comes through, it basically takes the heat away from your body at a much faster rate. Braden Locke went for 20 for 30 for 292 yards and 3 touchdowns with a long of 58 where we just got burned. Vinny Anthony the second had 7 receptions for 137 yards, 156 yard after catch and 1 TD. That was the 58-yard touchdown. You know, so there is, you know, the secondary did get burned up a little bit, and hopefully we can figure that out or, you know, do something about that. But you got to stop Iowa's Caleb Johnson from running the ball. And then we're going to have to deal with the rest of that area. And then I think, you know, let's real quick look at Iowa's season. I think over the past few years, what you've seen is an Iowa defense that has shut everybody down. You know what I mean? They've done a damn good job of, you know, they've done a really good job over the years of winning games by field goals because their defense was able to keep everybody from scoring, you know, more than 14 points, let's say. And this year, let's see, at Minnesota, they won 31-14. The second half was a disaster for Minnesota. At Ohio State, number 3, they lost 35-7. That was a pretty trashy game. Versus Washington, they won 40-16, so they held them there low. They lost to Michigan State 32-20, so they gave up 32 points in that game. Northwestern, they won 40-14. Versus Wisconsin, they won 42-10. At UCLA, they lost 20-17. Maryland last week, they won 29-13. So I don't think their defense has been nearly as daunting as it's been in the past. We'll go ahead and look up scoring defense. Y'all know that's my favorite thing.
It really doesn't sound like it. And, you know, today I saw a stat that said that at Nebraska, we have not let any rushing touchdowns happen this season.
That's pretty wild.
I know. So if our defense...
Since 1939.
What?
1939 was the last year that Nebraska went an entire season without allowing a rushing touchdown at home.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Since 1939.
1939.
2024.
Yeah. That's a pretty long stretch. So,
I mean, that says something about our defense, guys.
It does. Okay, Iowa's scoring defense is 12th nationally, giving up 17.7 points a game. So, you know, fairly robust. Where are we now? Nebraska is at 27th, giving up 20.5 points a game. So that's how close not a lot of difference there. What is that? Maybe a field goal and a safety?
Yeah. So
between them and us.
They don't score very much. Let's just be honest. Unless you let them, unless your defense isn't very good. It doesn't sound like they've played against very many good defenses.
Ohio State. Minnesota's defense can be good, but they really did fall apart that second half of that game. And Iowa State, they lost to Iowa State, which is pretty damn funny. Okay. So I think that we're going to – here's the thing. I think we're going to see more of what we saw against Wisconsin. I think that you had a team, again, I'll go back to USC. The offense played a little better. Wisconsin, they exploded. I don't expect us to just overwhelm Iowa, but I do expect us to be able to have an offense that's competent. And that's the thing is when you go back to what I said earlier, what I say, the last 6 or 7 games have come down to one score. The last 6 games, 7 points or less. They've won the last 8 of the last 9. Okay, 6 of those 7 games, we didn't have a competent offense, really. And I think now we're looking at something that might be a competent offense. And I guess that's what I'm going to hang my hat on, is that we're going to see more of the same. We're going to see more of improvement against Iowa because the alternative makes me ill.
So I have a question for you, John.
Ew. Okay.
Are we through seeing your bathroom this season?
I thought we were through seeing my bathroom at the beginning of this season, but apparently we weren't. So
I'm pretty sure
I don't plan this stuff ahead of time.
You should, and you should put up the shower curtain that some sweet girl gave you.
That is kind of. Do you realize how weird that sounds?
No,
I mean, just take it out of
until
context
just now.
and say, yeah, some sweet girl gave me a shower curtain. What the hell? Where does this fit in life at all? Anyway,
Husker fandom right here.
Fred Sacco at 39. We had a draw with Indiana. Okay, what else do we need to go through? Anything? Is there anything left undone? Which would you rather be, Pinky or the Brain? Yeah, you can't answer that. You don't know what Pinky and the Brain are.
Okay, which would you rather be?
I think I'd rather be Pinky.
Why?
Because Pinky just seems so like he just went along with things. He didn't, he wasn't diabolical. Maybe he was involved in the plans to take over the world, but he wasn't like, it just seems like they have a more happier, carefree life. And when they were constantly having their plans of taking over the world foiled, then he was like, yeah, he kind of had the attitude, yeah, we're going to do it again tomorrow night, because what do we do every night? Try to take over the world. And that's who you'd rather be. I think so, Pinky, really. Okay. Maybe when I was younger, I would have rather been the Brain. Brain Cole says, "Who's the brains of this outfit?" I think it's becoming Minnie more and more, because she's the guy earlier said, why do we have a woman on this show? Ridiculous. Listen, I did the other show with Greg for years, and I always tried to get Greg organized, and it took her 3 weeks. Actually, my 1-year anniversary is coming up, John. Oh, wow. Yeah. In like 2 weeks. What are we going to do for you? Nothing. I was actually thinking I would do something like a little compilation or something. I don't know. We'll see. So she's put together intros. She's put together outros. There you go. I think it's Minnie. Wait, Linda Wilkins says Merritt Beeson got drafted #1 in volleyball today. Yes, she did. There was a pro draft, and Merritt Beeson was the #1 player taken. Yep. I didn't see Lexi drafted. Is she not going to play pro volleyball or what? Oh, I didn't see that either. I'm sure she will. She did make a really nice social media post thanking the people of Nebraska, and I think that. We've seen so many wonderful, amazing, beautiful volleyball players come through this program, but man, Lexi Rodriguez has just been an absolute joy to watch play volleyball, because she's just, she's always got that smile, and then every once in a while she turns to that kind of, killer face, just kind of like, you can see it every once in a while. She just gets really serious. She's and like adorable. These girls, they let you into their passion for volleyball, and I mean, they show you what it means to them, and it's so you can't help but root for them. Oh, there we go. Wait, no, that wasn't it. No, that Linda Wilkins said she did not declare. She is holding for the new league, Love B, and Justin Rogge says Lexi will go in the Loeb League. I haven't followed this enough. Pit Snipes Husker says, throw the bones at the like button. There you go. Do you want to give a prediction, John? How do you feel about Friday? What are you doing for Thanksgiving, John? Real quick. You know what? My rotten son went to Chicago to be with his girlfriend. So he's gone. And the house is, I had to wonder if he didn't text me at all during this Wisconsin game. So anyway, so he's gone. Probably Noah and Katie and Ava are coming over, and it'll just be us them three and me and my wife. And I think I'm going to be smoking chickens.
Oh, smoking chickens.
Yeah, I thought we were going to go out to just eat someplace because there's only 5 of us, but it sounds like I'll be smoking chickens for Thanksgiving. No, my family doesn't care for turkey, and they're all very healthy people, and there's too much salt in ham. So there you go. Okay. Is there anything else? I don't think there is.
Your prediction? How do you feel about Friday?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What would we do on offense? I don't think I don't think we can just. You got to mix it up against Wisconsin. And here's the problem with what Marcus Satterfield was doing. Marcus Satterfield just had a play. He was just calling plays. He didn't set things up. He didn't have a overall. I think Haas calls it a holistic approach. And I think what Dana Holgorsen can do to Iowa is to counter them. They do have Phil Parker, one of the best DCs in the nation. Is he's going to counter them with setting stuff up where he's got like 3 or 4 plays where I think this last week we saw where we ran some motion to the left like we were doing a swing, and then he came back with a screen pass in the other direction. So, whichever the defense did, they had to make a choice of who they're going to cover. And I think you're going to see a lot of that. We did a lot of motion type stuff. And then everybody in the stadium had those collective gasps when Dylan Raiola would flip the ball in the air. I don't know. You probably didn't see, well, you watched it on TV. Everyone in the stadium went all together when the ball went up like that. And I think of who was a Barney coming across, or Banks or Nair coming across to get, the little, the pitch pass, whatever, shovel pass kind of thing. Yeah, but everybody was like, every time they did it. I think we're going to see stuff like that. I think that the thing with Holgorsen is he knows that in order to beat that defense, he's going to have to get them out of position and fool them and misdirect them and deceive them. And I like deception. I like fooling people.
He does that well, actually.
Yeah. So
he actually is really good at that. So what are you thinking, John?
I'm trying to think about possessions,
Okay.
They're going to try to grind clock. They're going to try to run Caleb Johnson as much as they can. 8 possessions, let's say 6 possessions a half. We score on half of those, 15-30. Let's say 30-21 Nebraska. 30 is kind of an odd score. Yeah, you know what? We make field goals now. Although they're going to make – let's go 30-24 Nebraska because it's got to be within 1 score.
You really think it's going to be like that? You think – okay. You went over the scores yourself, John.
Yeah.
I mean, they're playing with their 5th string quarterback.
Yeah.
And it's Iowa. You think they're going to score 24 against us? Really?
Yeah, I feel like that's, yeah.
Okay. Well, we will see, John. And I guess I'll see you here next week to prove you wrong.
You got this really resentful look on your face when I said that. Like I had personally insulted you. 24 points. Okay, maybe not. Maybe 17, but I'd probably take ours down 1. 24-17 Nebraska. How's that? Sounds more reasonable.
Do you want me to add these up? Because you're just throwing numbers out at these.
Yeah, I am. That's how these things work. Linda Wilkins says, who was a linebacker last week? Their starting quarterback, Jackson Stratton, is their scout team line. He's a linebacker on the scout team. So that's who we're going to probably, unless it's Cade McNamara, I don't think we have to fear passing from Iowa that much. It's when they do play action and stuff like that, that we have to worry about it because they probably can do that easily. Throwing the ball up in the air to a guy and him beating a defense that's trying to sell out against the run. That's what they're going to do. There you go.
Well, I love that.
Oh, look at this. The TW at Leith, Iowa doesn't have a quarterback that is constantly imitating like Pat Mahomes. Get your own identity, dude. You know, when you were 18 years old, did you have your own identity, TW? I don't think you did. And if you said, yes, I did, you're a lying motherfucker. There you go. You know, who has, you know, there's very few people when they're 18 or 19 have their own identity and they're trying to figure out who they are. All right. So kiss my ass, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Old crusty ass too. You know, on that note, I think we're done because we're way past an hour. I
love it.
And there you
John,
go. Yes.
Thank you for the entertainment.
Uh-huh. Oh, it was Kansas that beat Colorado. That was hilarious. Okay, so how do we end now?
This is it. Ready?
Okay. Good night. Good night. Thank you all for the support, by the way. Thank you all for constantly watching me or coming up to me to say hello or Lincoln or saying that you're glad I'm not on my toilet. This is the weirdest thing ever. Go to Cobby Corn, find some unique Christmas presents. There you go. I'm done.
Okay. Have a good night.